First, wire fraud related to the theft of millions of dollars from 5 clients, including a paraplegic man who agreed to a multi-million-dollar settlement, but has received only a fraction of the money, despite the fact that Mr. Avenatti received the full settlement amount over 4 years ago. Second, tax fraud, including failing to file income tax returns for himself and his law firm. As you will hear in a few minutes from Special Agent in Charge Corner, Mr. Avenatti also allegedly took steps designed to obstruct an IRS collection, hide his coffee company's income, and prevent the IRS from collecting on a series of tax liens and levies filed since 2017. Third, bank fraud, including the allegations in the original complaint that Mr. Avenatti received 3 loans from a Mississippi bank based on applications supported by phony tax returns. And fourth, bankruptcy fraud. The indictment alleges that after his law firm was forced into bankruptcy over 2 years ago, Mr. Avenatti has repeatedly lied to the bankruptcy court, to the bankruptcy trustee, and to his creditors by failing to report income his bankrupt firm was receiving. These 4 areas of criminal conduct alleged in the indictment are all linked to one another because money generated from one set of crimes was used to further other crimes, typically in the form of payments designed to string along victims so as to prevent Mr. Avenatti's financial house of cards from collapsing. I will now discuss the various areas of criminal conduct in a bit more detail. The first area of criminal conduct discussed in the indictment alleges that Mr. Avenatti committed wire fraud in relation to funds, more than $12 million in total, that he received and held in trust on behalf of his clients. While Mr. Avenatti was entitled to attorney's fees for the settlements he negotiated, the indictment alleges that he nevertheless stole millions of dollars that rightfully belonged to his clients. There are 5 separate client victims in 4 cases in which money was stolen. If convicted of the 36 crimes alleged in the indictment, Mr. Avenatti would face a statutory maximum sentence of 333 years in federal prison, plus a mandatory 2-year consecutive term for an identity theft count. Of course, the ultimate sentence would be up to a judge following a conviction. At this point, I want to stress that Mr. Avenatti is presumed innocent unless and until he is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in court. The indictment also contains 2 forfeiture allegations. In the event of his conviction, seek to have proceeds of Mr. Avenatti's fraudulent conduct forfeited to the government. In relation to this, as I mentioned, authorities seized a $5 million jet that Mr. Avenatti co-owned, a purchase he made with money allegedly stolen from a client. I want to express my appreciation to the IRS criminal investigators who have done excellent work on this case. This matter is the result of over 2.5 years of tax collection efforts and investigation by the IRS. The investigation in this case is ongoing. I also want to acknowledge the prosecutors on this case, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Julian Andre and Brett Sagal, both of whom are up on stage with me today. Mr. Avenatti, who is free on bond in this case and in an unrelated federal case in New York, is scheduled to be arraigned on the indictment on April 29th. At that time, he'll be asked to enter a plea to the charges and a trial date will be scheduled.
The indictment paints the picture of an individual who began to run afoul with the IRS nearly a decade ago. For 2009, Michael Avenatti filed an individual income tax return reporting income of $1.9 million, but failed to timely pay taxes due. Mr. Avenatti's outstanding tax debt was not fully paid until 2015, when Mr. Avenatti sold his Laguna Beach home, which it should be noted was encumbered by a tax lien, for over $12 million. That 2010 Form 1040 is the last U.S. individual income tax return Mr. Avenatti has filed with the IRS. Mr. Avenatti's disregard for the federal tax laws did not stop with his personal income taxes. Once he acquired Tolly's Coffee Stores out of bankruptcy, Mr. Avenatti withheld the employment taxes from the paychecks of his baristas, cashiers, and store managers as required by law. However, it is alleged that between 2015 and 2017, Tolly's parent company, Global Baristas, failed to file the required employment tax returns and pay approximately $3.2 million in federal payroll taxes. This includes at least $2.3 million in trust fund taxes that Global Baristas had withheld from its employees' paychecks. In late 2016, the IRS initiated a collection action relating to Global Baristas' failure to file its quarterly employment tax returns and pay over to the IRS payroll taxes that Global Baristas had withheld from employees' paychecks. By June of 2017, a federal tax lien was filed against Global Baristas, reflecting the amount owed to the IRS for unpaid federal payroll taxes had reached almost $5 million. Undeterred by the IRS's collection action and the subsequent filing of the federal tax lien, Mr. Avenatti allegedly took steps to obstruct and impede the IRS's efforts to collect the payroll taxes owed by Global Baristas. The steps Mr. Avenatti took to thwart the IRS included lying to an IRS revenue officer, opening a new bank account to receive the company's credit card transactions, and directing employees to deposit all cash receipts from Tolly's stores into a little-used account belonging to GB Autosports, the entity which managed Avenatti's car racing team. Today's indictment also includes 10 counts related to Mr. Avenatti's willful failure to file tax returns. In addition to his alleged failure to file individual tax returns for 2014, 15, 16, and 17, Mr. Avenatti allegedly failed to file tax returns for his two law practices, Avenatti and Associates and Egan Avenatti, for the 2015, 2016, and 2017 tax years. During this same period, Mr. Avenatti allegedly embezzled and misappropriated millions of dollars in client settlement proceeds to which he was not entitled. Michael Avenatti allegedly stole from his clients, and he stole from the IRS. The money was used to fuel a lavish lifestyle that had no limits, including making mortgage payments on a multi-million-dollar home in Laguna Beach and purchasing a private plane. The two forfeiture allegations in the indictment will allow the government to seek the forfeiture of any assets related to Mr. Avenatti's alleged criminal offenses. This includes the forfeiture of Mr. Avenatti's Honda Jet, which was seized by our agents yesterday. Mr. Avenatti failed to meet his obligations to the government and now faces severe consequences if convicted of the crimes in the indictment, including significant jail time, substantial fines, and the forfeiture of his assets.
Based on the affidavit, some money to pay off others, and then taking money from them to pay off others?
You know, I don't want to characterize it in a particular way, but I think the concept is correct. That taking money in one scheme and using it to lull clients, to string them along, to prevent them from going to authorities, and taking money from different pots as he needed it. I don't want to characterize it in any particular way. There were a number of companies, a fairly tangled web of companies, and money being moved around to various accounts. Other than that, I'm going to leave it at that.
This started with trust between an attorney and client, and how rare or not rare it is to see something like this?
All I can speak to is, as an attorney, holding your client's money in trust is one of your highest duties. It is lawyer 101. You do not steal your client's money. And that is one of your highest duties, and every lawyer knows it. It's laid out in the indictment. So starting back in September of 2016, the IRS was trying to collect debts in connection with the coffee business. And you can see how those as alleged in the indictment, how Mr. Avenatti attempted to avoid paying those debts, lied to the revenue officer. Ultimately, it was made a criminal referral to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and that's how we got involved.
Did he string along the IRS the same way he allegedly strung along his clients?
I think a fair characterization.
So did this all start with the IRS investigation and then these other 5 clients came about subsequently as that was being investigated, or did they happen at the same time, separately? Which
My
came
understanding
first?
is that, from our perspective, the IRS matter started first.
Did his celebrity help this case kind of unravel? Were clients coming forward after they had seen him in the spotlight?
I really can't speak to the effect of his celebrity on it. Sorry.
Right, but the IRS probe began prior to his ascension to national acclaim with
Correct.
Stormy Daniels.
Correct.